What was his last words na tumatak sa iyo sa fourth time?
I remember just before he died, he opened his eyes and he just looked at me. And you're gonna make me cry. He just looked at me and he closed his eyes again, and all the alarms started going. All the machines started beeping, and all the nurses came in, all the doctors came in, because we were hustled out, and that was it. So there were no last words, but
There was that last look.
it was that last look that I will never forget. And God, look what you're doing. People will think I'm a crybaby.
It meant the world, that last look.
It's a very, very sad memory. And sad and happy at the same time, because at least meron siyang last connection with me, with us. I could see he looked at me, he really looked. And he knew who I was, and he knew that perhaps he was gone.
Parang
So,
that look was a farewell.
parang ganun.
Today, I'm with a man who needs no introduction. We have with us the one and only Mr. Bongo Marcos.
Hello. So happy to be here.
Thank you very much.
No, and thank you for taking the trouble.
Thank you very much for allowing us here from home. Do you have a favorite part of your house?
Well, having grown up as a student, I got used to living in one room. So I have my desk in my bedroom. So I basically spend most of my time when I'm in the house. I was in there for 72 days.
In your room?
In the room.
What were you doing inside the room?
Driving myself crazy, basically. But when you're ill, you don't really mind the passage of time. So
This you're talking about the time when you got COVID.
yeah, when I got COVID. So if you're not feeling bad, you don't really worry about it. I knew I was better because I was sick. I was getting very bored and just think, when can I get out of here? When can I get out?
Do you have a morning routine?
Well, yeah.
Like what time do you usually wake up?
I'm usually up by 7. But after cleaning my teeth, I go straight to the computer and look messages and answer my mail, see what's happening, what I missed before.
So hindi kayo nagbe-breakfast?
I fast.
Is that the intermittent
It's the
fasting?
intermittent fasting. It seems to work. Sometimes I forget that I fasted and haven't eaten. And I'll go and exercise.
What's your exercise?
Gym. Because my schedule's so crazy, I can't do it like before. That's what I do now. Just to stay fit, especially after COVID. It's my father's influence. My father was, before the term was invented, he was a health freak. And he would exercise at least an hour a day, sometimes twice a day.
You would see him exercise when you were
He would make
regularly.
He would bring us to the gym as a camp when we were little.
Since you talked about your father, when you were born, he was already in politics.
Yes. Like he became congressman in 47, and then senator in 57.
That's the time you were born.
That's the year I was born. Actually, I think he was always in politics, at least in his mind. When I became governor of Ilocos Norte, I got to talk to him. Since I was spending all my time, I got to talk to some of his friends, people who were around him. He was still living in Ilocos. And they said, 16 years old pa lang yan, may kabinete na yan.
Really?
Oh, talagang my father is one of these, the most single-minded person I've ever known. If it had nothing to do with his work, he just wouldn't spend time.
Saan po kayo pinanganak?
San Juan. No, pinanganak ako doon. So we lived in our house, which is still there, until 1965, when he won the presidency and he moved to Palas.
He won his presidency in 1965. You were 7 years
Yeah,
old.
because I remember my first birthday in the palace was on my 8th birthday.
What was that like?
Oh, it was amazing because my dad brought me to the school. He woke me up, and He came into my room. I was changing, going ready to school. And he said, "Come, it's your birthday. I'll bring you." So he brought me. And I cannot forget, and my classmates cannot forget, there were those two yung ice cream. Nagbebenta ng sorbetes, Magnolia. Selecta pa nun, hindi ba?
Oh, yes.
So, dalawa sila. So my dad made it Pacquiao. He said, "Oh, we paid them some money," and he said, "Oh, lahat ng hihingi ng ice cream, libre habong araw kasi birthday ng anak ko." So I was the most popular guy.
Anong school po kayo pumapasok
Lasal
nun?
Green Hills in Ortigas. Yeah.
So at 8 years old, you already lived in the palace. What was that like, growing up in Malacanang, in the palace?
Well, in the early days, masaya kasi ang daming
Kaya, ang daming
pupuntahan.
rooms, ang laki.
Ang daming pupuntahan, ang daming, you go down to the kitchen, you mess around with the cooks, and then you go to the Ctto, you mess around with them, you play with them, you go to the park. So there's many places to go.
Anong favorite place mo sa Malacanang?
I used to end up hanging out with the Ctto all the time. Because guys, the palace was so interesting. But as the time went on, the private part of the palace became smaller and smaller. And the office part of the palace became bigger and bigger. There was at one time I came out in my pajamas, and my father was approaching the state visitor. So I said, "Okay, that's not happening again. You do not leave your room until you're
Fully dressed.
You're ready to see me."
How was your relationship with your father?
My
Nung
dad?
time na yun? Was he a disciplinarian? Was he strict?
Yeah, he was. His only thing was study hard. Was at work hard, study hard. That was his main thing. As long as you're studying hard, you're okay with it.
You got a lot of strength. You grew up watching him sa stage, giving speeches. So, marami sa mannerisms niya. Even yung size niya, nakuha niya.
Yeah,
Yung
ang
weight.
katawan namin is remarkably similar. From shoe size to waist. That's why I was one of the lucky ones when he begins ng regalo. I would raid his closet. My mannerisms, especially speaking, is very much my dad's. But syempre, from the time I was very small, we were already there in the back watching him. He would teach a little bit about motivation and everything, but voice modulation and things like that. But mostly, what he would insist upon it when we started having to speak, that learn it, don't read. Thing that's also that everybody says, my voice, that we have the same voice.
Di ba po when your dad was president, kasama niyo sa mga different parts of the world, and you have met some of the most powerful and influential people. You have given them the royal family.
Yes. Some of the funnest parts, my mom would call. Says, "I'm going to meet Generalissimo Franco in Spain. You want to come?" Of course. Get out of school, number one. You know? And I would go. "I'm going to see the Pope. Sama ka. Sama ko din." I think it was a conscious effort of my parents to expose us. Because even the travel, like they would go to the provinces, they would go to, especially mga Baguio, ganun. Sinasama lagi kami. We were always there. So I think it was my parents that really wanted us to see them.
Sino po yung na-meet nyo that made a huge impact in your life na hindi nyo makakalimutan?
Wala. I've met most of the popes. I've met most of the secretary generals, and I've met the most insignificant. Si Indira Gandhi was one of the impressed me. And Maggie Thatcher.
What do you think is the greatest lesson you learned from your father?
Oh my. I've learned so much from him. It's hard. When it comes to work, marami siyang, like things like you walk into a room, the guy, if you walk into a negotiation, whoever knows more wins. So I've always held that. Always work hard. Hard work is always rewarded. He was not the type to sit me down. Hindi, basta ito yung gagawin natin. He would be with his cabinet members, something. We'd be talking about something pretty important. And he would suddenly turn to me, "What do you think?" It's like,
Ilang taong kayo?
I was 16, 17. He was already turning to me and said, what do you think? But when he asks you a question, it's not because he wants to know the answer. He wants to know if you know the answer. He's testing you. Kasi inaral na niya yan. So, I'm prepared.
From your mother naman po.
From my mother, well, of course, it's the certain things. My love of music, of the arts, because our house always had music. She was the one who used to take us to the theater, take us to museums. It really was her point of joy, really, was the art or the arts. It wasn't normal. You didn't have a norm. There wasn't such a thing as a normal day. Every day was different. What formed the way I do things is how my father or my mother would react. It's having watched both of them handling the problems that they were confronted on a daily basis. I think that's what really made my own personality when it came to such things. I would say that the many incidents that I watched them handle really taught me how to approach problems, how to take challenges.
Speaking of yung handling life situations and problems when people were marching towards EDSA, how did your father handle that situation?
My father called me and he said, we have intelligence. This is about this particular movement. This is what you do. I'm assigning you to work with the security to handle the security defense of the palace. So that's from that day on, that's all I was doing. From that point, that Wednesday afternoon, ako-uniforme na ako. Because I just come out of the military. Kaya ako dinagay. So, ikaw ang in charge sa defense ng palasyo.
How was your father nung time?
So he reverted back to his commander mode, wartime commander. Again, very calm, very measured.
So, nung nangyayari po yung rally sa EDSA, ano yung sinabi niyo?
I remember saying, the kalaban, sabi, ginigera na tayo. And he answered me. He said, I have spent my whole life defending Filipinos. I cannot hurt them now. Okay? Put your guns down. We're not shooting anyone.
Were you scared at the time?
No, I wasn't. I can't say as I was. Because militarily, we had an advantage. It's just he chose not to fight. And then they took us to Clark. When we got to Clark, dinisarmahan kami. Dinipunta kami sa Clark. Just what happened.
How was your father?
He was ill. He wasn't well. He wasn't sleeping. But again, he was still his old self. He was in that mode. He was in commander.
Was there ever a time that he showed his vulnerability?
He's a professional, so basta kung anong kailangan gawin natin. He didn't shirk away from any kind of challenge. Basta kung ano hinaharap na talaga. Basta the opposite of vulnerable.
Solution-based.
Oh, absolutely. Mission-oriented. Tawag sa mission.
How was your last moments with your father?
Before he passed.
They called us. I was in San Francisco, and the doctors started calling us. My sisters, better come back. So I rushed, took the first plane back to Hawaii, and that's it. He had a kind of seizure. His heart failed, and we were watching, just watching him trying to revive. And I remember I was hugging Eileen, and we were looking, because we were asked to leave the room by the doctors attended. So we were watching him through the window.
What was his last words na tumatak sa inyo before he passed?
I remember just before he died, he opened his eyes and he just looked at me. And you're gonna make me cry. he just looked at me. And he closed his eyes again, and all the alarms started going on. All the machines started beeping, and all the nurses came in, all the doctors came in. Of course, we were hustled out, and that was it. So there were no last words, but
There was that last look.
there was that last look that I will never forget. And God, look what you're doing. People will think I'm a crybaby.
It meant the world, that last look.
It's a very, very sad memory. And sad and happy at the same time because at least meron siyang last connection with me, with us. I could see he looked at me. He really looked. And he knew who I was. And he knew that perhaps she was the one.
Parang
So,
that look was farewell.
parang ganun.